morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're on to the Agribusiness Chat with Jinmi Ajayi, and today we'll be discussing the fishery value chain in francophone West African countries. And we have Mr. Songwa, who is a fishery engineer from Congo, and he's going to be sharing with us from his wealth of experience. Good morning, Mr. Songwa. How are you doing?
Good morning, Mr. Jinmi Ajayi. I'm doing well, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Very good, actually. Thank you very much. And thank you for your time today. So let's go straight to the topic. Kindly give us a quick overview of the fish farming industry in francophone countries.
All right. Thank you for having me. The fish chain value, fish production value in Africa, francophone countries can be summarized in one sentence. Local production does not meet the local demand. That's why our countries end up importing fish from Asia, from Europe, and from America. The main producer, which are small-scale fish farmers, do not have access to valuable inputs. I mean, fish feeds, fingerlings, and even production system that will allow them to produce more than what they're producing in order to meet the local demand. So the value chain, there's not much investment in the whole value chain. I mean, in the production of inputs, in the production of fish, and also in the commercialization, in the distribution of the product. So that's the quick overview of the fish farming industry.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Just like here in Nigeria, there's still some, we also share some of these realities with, francophone West African countries. Okay, so what challenges, what are the challenges facing the fishery industry, and from your own, in your own opinion, how do you think they can be tackled?
From my perspective, I think there are three factors for the fish farm industry to develop. The first one is access to good fish feed, because fish feed accounts for more than 70% of all the expenses that a business in fish farming will have to do. So obviously, it's important to have a good quality fish feed. And unfortunately, in our countries, in most of our countries, there's not much investment going in that sector, because what the situation is that farmers end up making their own fish feeds with little or no knowledge at all about the dietary requirements of the fish. So which they end up having a long period of production. Instead of having, for example, 6 months, they'll end up having a full year of production to have 1 kilogram of fish. So that's the first challenge, is access to good fish feed, and that's actually an opportunity for investment. People could invest in that sector in order to sell the fish feeds to fish farmers and to improve the local production. So the second challenge is access to high quality fingerlings, because when you do commercial fish farming, genetics, just like in chicken farming, genetics is very important. You have to have good genetics that allow you to reach your strategic goals with the resources that you have. So access to high quality fingerlings is also a problem and a big challenge in our countries. There's also a room of opportunity in investing in fish fingerlings production, because fish fingerling production is also another specialization in aquaculture. When we talk about, for example, catfish is a type of fish that do not reproduce by itself when it's in captivity. So you have to have some knowledge to do the artificial insemination in order to have. So there's also a room for investment in that particular sector. And the third challenge is the production system. So as I said, there are three factors. This first one is the fish feed, the second one is the fish fingerling, and the third one is the production system, because the technology that you use to produce fish have to be you have to use intensive production because demographics in Africa is still rising, and in the next few years, I think 2 out of 4 people will be African. So we need to be producing a little bit more than what we used to produce in order to meet the local demand. So the system of production, the production system has to match that that objective, because we have 3 different type of production system. Extensive production, where you don't feed the fish, you just put fish in the pond and you hope to get to have grown up fish after a certain time. That's what I call traditional fish farming, and that's what we've been doing in most francophone countries. We just put fish in the ponds, we give no food at all, and we hope to get results. The second type of production system is semi-intensive production system, whereas you put fish in the pond and you just give them wastes, organic waste from your kitchen or from your farm, and then you hope to get fish growing. That's semi-intensive production system, and that's also what we do somehow. And the last one, and which is the most important, and I think that's what I'm advocating for, is the intensive fish farming, whereas
exactly.
fish is dependent on the feed that the farmer is giving to him, and because it's dependent, then the farmer has to give a high quality, a good quality fish feed in order for the fish to grow fast and for him to get the cash flow back. So that's the 3 challenges that fish farming industry is facing actually in francophone countries.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And what species of fish are most suitable for farming, and why are they the best option to consider before going into fish farming?
I think actually there's the tilapia and the catfish that are the best species to farm in Africa. Not only because they are from Africa, so they can withstand the heat, the cold, and the water qualities, but also it's because there are the 2 species that we have enough information, scientific information. We know there's the dietary need, reproduction cycle, all the information are available. That's why most people, or we mostly farm these 2 type of fish. But also, and there's also a room of improvement, and here I'm addressing especially to scholars and scientists in aquaculture to study all those local fish species in Africa in order to adapt them so that they could also be used for fish farming, because we have a lot of fish in our waters, but we only know 2 of them perfectly. So there's research and but the 2 type of fish, tilapia and catfish. Catfish is more advantageous because catfish can breathe air from the atmosphere like humans do, but tilapia do not breathe from the atmosphere. So with tilapia, you are a little bit limited when you don't have enough oxygen in your water. But for catfish, you don't have that problem. And also the production system. I go back to the production system that's one use have to be in synchrony with the type of fish that you're farming. For example, the extensive production system, when you have an extensive production system, you can only produce 1 kilogram of fish per cubic meter of water, But when you go to an intensive production system, you produce at least 25 kilograms of fish for a cubic meter of water. So you see that there's the intensive production system is 25 times more productive than what we've been doing for the past 50 years.
Interesting. So what are the best fish farming systems?
Yeah. So the best, as I was saying, I go back again to the intensive fish farming, because I'm a huge advocate of intensive fish farming. When we look at the demographic, when you forecast the future, the next 30 years, there'll be so many Africans that we need to feed, so we cannot keep going doing the same old things that doesn't give us a lot of results. So the first one is aquaculture, is intensive aquaculture using recirculating technology there's a fish waste treatment so that we can use the same water in the cycle. And the second technology
Okay.
I want to talk about is aquaponics. Aquaponics is a way of farming fish and doing agriculture at the same time. So at the end of the day, you have two products. You have fish that are organic with no hormones, no chemicals, and also you have vegetables that you can actually retail at a higher price because it's organic with no pesticide. So in aquaponics system, you have it's an ecosystem of fish and vegetables working together, whereas you cannot use chemicals because if you put chemical for fish, then it's going to impact the plants. If you put chemical for plants, it's going to impact the fish. So you have a fully organic production system. So these are the two type of system that African entrepreneurs have to look at: recirculating aquaculture and aquaponics.
Okay. Okay. So, you mentioned aquaponics and then the other. So, I've seen different types of ponds, right? Some are like in big buckets, really large buckets, while some are actually like, you dig into into the ground and then you put water and all. So between these two, just share more insights. So for people to have a better understanding of which will work best for them.
I think
the pros and cons of both.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the resources. When we talk about earth pond, where you dig and then you put water and you put the fish, for that system to be productive and to be intensive, you have to ensure that you have good access to water because water is a very important aspect in fish farming because fish live in water. When you have an earth pond, you have to have a good access of water in order to be able to renew the water that you have in your pond frequently. If you can do that once every day, then you can reach the 25 kilogram per cubic meter of water. That's what to do. It's not bad to dig and put water and put fish, but you have to ensure that you have a good access to water so that you can renew the water within that pond, which will allow you to put more fish and to produce more kilogram of fish. And the other system where you build concrete pond with concrete, or you can also use plastic ponds and stuff. That also is very productive because in that setup you have to have a lot of water. You have a steady amount of water that you can use for the fish, but also you can treat the waste water from the fisheries in order to do aquaponics on the side. So both systems are equally productive, but the main thing is, especially when you're using earth ponds, when you're digging ponds on the earth, you have to ensure that you have good access to water, that which will allow you to produce more kilogram of fish per amount of water.
Thank you very much. Wow. Agriculture is pretty technical, right? There's a lot of science involved in it. And it's important for people to know about these details before venturing into the industry. Thank you very much. Okay, so what practical advice do you have for new entrants into, or those who are aspiring to go into fish farming?
The first advice is, just like.
All right. So, what practical advice do you have for those aspiring to go into fish farming?
The first one, just like you don't need to be an IT engineer to use your phone, you use your smartphone and send email. You also do not have to be an aquaculturist or an aquaculture engineer to dive into fish farming because what we've done is we come up with a technology that allows anyone to start fish farming with the basic knowledge, and the technology what we refer to Ndunda Aquaponics. We use aquaponics technology and harvesting rainwater and also using solar energy to set up a system of production, a production system that allows anyone to start producing fish on his backyard, in his house, or commercially. So the advice is first of all, do your homework. Do your homework. Try to understand what is the life cycle of a fish, because as I said, there are three factors. There's the feed, there's the fish fingerlings, and the production system. For the production system, you covered with Ndunda Aquaponics, and that's why I'm also inviting people to check our the website Ndunda Aquaponics and on Instagram, learn more about that technology. And you just have to ensure that you have available fish feed, and also you have available a good supply of fish fingerlings in order to start fish farming. So when you have these three factors aligned together, then you can start fish farming, because fish farming, and especially when you use Ndunda Aquaponics technology, it only requires you 15 minutes of inspection. You just come there, you feed the fish for like 5 minutes, you double check, there's no problem with the system, and then you go about your day. Even if you have to do it many times, like 5 times in a day, but it doesn't take you an hour. It just takes you 5 minutes of feeding the fish, because the system on itself is an ecosystem that allows fish to live and to thrive. So yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. Let's talk about the other technicalities: aeration, oxygen level, pH level, alkalinity. Okay, I guess that's under pH level anyways. So could you share more details about this?
Yeah, the first thing, aeration. Aeration is very important, because not only fish need oxygen, but also because I'm talking about intensive fish farming. Not only fish need oxygen, but also the waste treatment, the waste water of fish, the treatment process also needs oxygen to thrive. So aeration is a really important part in fish farming, especially when you're using intensive fish farming. You need to ensure that you have enough oxygen. And, I like to give the example. If we're in the same room, like say a small room, and there's only you and me, we could stay in that room forever because there's enough oxygen for both of us. But from the moment we are 1,000 people in a small room, within 5 minutes, the amount of oxygen in the room will be depleted. So if there's no aeration, will like the 1,000 people will die within an hour. It's the same thing with fish farming. If you put a lot of fish in water, you need to supply also aeration so that they could breathe correctly. But if you don't supply aeration, the next thing you know, within 2 hours, all the fish will die. So aeration is a very important part to consider when you're doing intensive fish farming. Secondly is the pH, alkalinity, and acidity. It's also very important, because when you're treating the filtration, the biofiltration of wastewater, reduce the pH within the water. So you always need to be on the lookout, or should always measure your pH in the water, so that you could take measures. The easy measure is when you think that because the pH should range between 6.5 to 8. If it's more than 8, then you need to do something about it. If it's lower than 6.5, you have to do something about it, because the fish won't thrive. So the easy thing to do is, just if you have a pH that pH that you do not desire, well, you just let 30% of the water go out, and you fill in 30% new water, so that the pH level is balanced. So and also, when you're doing intensive fish farming, there is nitrates, ammonia, and nitrate and nitrate. Those three things are really important, because it's a cycle of nitrogen. I guess people who could follow us on Instagram and on our website will understand more about it. But the fish waste come as ammonium, and it has to be transformed into ammonium. Is very toxic for fish, so it has to be filtered into a compound that is less toxic for fish. That's what we call the nitrification of nitrogen. So that process is also important. You have to always check that process, and we have small tests that you have to do, that you could do every day or every 3 days, that gives you an idea of the amount of ammonium nitrate that you have in your water. And same with pH. If you feel like the amount of nitrate or ammonium is too high, well, you let go 30% of the water, you put in new water, and it should be good.
All right, thank you very much for that. So lastly, let's talk about marketing. We've talked about the technicalities involved in the farming, the production process and all. But I mean, we're talking about agribusiness and empowering Africans, young Africans, Africans, including old and young Africans. So, marketing is vital when it comes to agribusiness, value addition, processing, packaging, distribution, and distribution and all. So, I mean, how can we improve on marketing, fish production, fish value addition, packaging, distribution, and what are the shortcomings in francophone countries? What are the hacks you think that people or farmers should consider?
I think the first thing to consider, we have 90% of our population that live with less than $5 a day. So when you go into fish farming, you have to put in your mind that that's the target you need to reach. That population, that's what you need to reach. And the first advice for distribution, then you don't need to produce big fish. You don't need to reach a kilogram of fish. Like when a fish gets to 150 gram, I think the market will already take it. I did an experience in December 2020. I produced half a ton of fish, but there were like 120 grams, 150 gram, average. And because they were that size, I was able to market them at a lower cost, at a lower price. And then those half a ton, I sold it in like 10 days. It was gone. Whereas it take me like 3 months to sell a ton of fish, but when the fish they get bigger. So for distribution, you don't need to target high markets, up market people. No, target the low income community, because this is where you're gonna get your millions, because there are millions of them and they eat fish every day. That's the advantage in our countries. You don't need to target $5 a kilogram fish price. No, you could actually sell your fish for $2 a kilogram, but you're selling it to a market that can take it every day, and at the end of the day, you're making a profit. And secondly, there's also transformation. Not very few of us understand that you could also make sausage out of fish meat. You could make sausage, you could make fish burger, you can do so many things about the surplus production about fish that could also improve your rates of return of investment. So we have to take fish farming as like the way we take chicken farming, the way we take beef farming, the way we take mutton farming, because the meat of fish could also be transformed into something that can fetch a higher price. So the first advice is to go for the low income community, because this is where you're gonna get your millions. It's not by selling to upmarket, to fancy restaurant and hotels. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But the market is way bigger when you target the low income, and that's why we need to come together. And we're talking about Africa producing its own food. That's where we have to come together. I do not need to be the biggest fish producer in the Congo. No, I want to be 1,000 of us that produce fish, and the production of the 1,000 will be enough to meet the demand. So Africa need to learn to come together to do business together, just the same way as Asian, when they come to Africa, they come together. The first one will come, and then you will call his friend, his brother, and then next thing you know, after 2 years, there's a whole community of them doing the same business. And then I think we should do the same thing, targeting our own community and adjust our price accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, profound words there. Thank you very much, Mr. Songwa. And just to add to the gems you've already shared, I mean, fish is also a good source of protein, which is necessary for human growth and survival, including mental development. I mean, it's funny because, I mean, you've shared so much and there's really little I can add because, I mean, you are the expert here. I'm not a fish expert and also I'm only an agribusiness practitioner. So thank you very much. And I mean, I'm really grateful for you. I mean, because you took time out and this was supposed to happen like a couple of days back, but because of various circumstances. But I'm glad that we're able to share and discuss this because I've observed some kind of lacuna when it comes to discussing these kind of issues affecting the entire West Africa or even Africa as large. I mean, at large, but there are not so many people talking about francophone West Africa, francophone Africa. So it's like francophone region or the francophone group are only just in their own space. No one is talking about them. So I'm glad because you're able to take this opportunity to share with us. Thank you very much, Mr. Songwa. Bye.
Happy to thank you for having me.
Yeah.